What better way to listen to the Stay Woke podcast than listen to it wearing a Stay Woke or Wokest t-shirt? From royaltyshop.bigcartel.com. My personal favorite is the red and white one. So head over to royaltyshop.bigcartel.com to get one today. Again, that's royaltyshop.bigcartel.com.
You're now tuned into the hottest podcast in the world, the Stay Woke Podcast, right here on the SonicBreakdown.com.
Man, it's time to wake up. Get this cake up.
Welcome back to another Stay Woke podcast. This is D. Ray Brinson, and you know the Stay Woke podcast is presented by thesonicbreakdown.com. Today's going to be a special episode. It's going to be a crossover episode with DJ William West and Live in the Garage and Stay Woke podcast crossover event. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about Justice for Junior. For those who don't know, we'll break it down. And so here you have it. The Justice for Junior crossover event with Stay Woke Podcast and Live in the Garage with DJ William West and D. Ray Brinson.
Welcome back to Live in the Garage podcast in conjunction with the Stay Woke podcast. I got my man right here with me. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up? This is D. Ray Brinson from the Stay Woke Podcast. Definitely check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. Basically everywhere you can listen to podcasts, we're there.
It's good to have you on this podcast, man, because I don't think I will have anybody else. Not too many people I can, reach out to and say I can hold a conversation with. So thanks for being part of this podcast for sure.
Appreciate it, man. I'm excited to be live in the garage, man. It's been a long time, but happy to get back together and be on another podcast together, man. And this is a definitely important topic, so it's always good to talk about it with somebody that really cares about it as well. So
thank you. Now, we just got done doing a Live in the Garage podcast playlist. I just did that for the first time ever, dedicated to Junior, aka Junior. Full name is Lisandro Guzman Feliz, a 15-year-old kid who was just recently murdered in the Bronx. So this is the whole topic, and I've wanted to talk about this topic for so long, but you know what? I feel like now is a perfect time because now that all the smoke has settled from the whole case, from the whole story, the internet has calmed down too. And that's another thing I want to bring up is that the internet has calmed down and that real life justice is being taken care of and real people are at work. The NYPD is at work, and also guys are in jail right now for this murder. So again, this is the topic. It is Junior, Lisandro Guzman Feliz, 15-year-old kid who was brutally murdered in the Bronx.
June 20th
to be exact. And a few things that I just want to go over, and then we'll jump into this podcast. Again, the rest of this podcast will be up on my Mixcloud, my website, Live IG for the next 24 hours. So please enjoy the playlist that I'm putting together along with this podcast to keep it all themed and our discussion along with the mix. So I was gravitated to this story mainly because of the Bronx. I have a lot of history with the Bronx, and let's just be real. I'm a hip-hop head, and if anything happens in the Bronx, I am in tune with it just because of the Bronx. Anything can happen, and I'm in tuned.
Birthplace of hip-hop.
First of all, thank you. It's the birthplace of hip-hop. Big fan of Big Pun, the Terror Squad, Fat Joe, Remy Ma. Who else is part of the Bronx? DJ Kool Herc, Swiss Beats. I mean, there's a long list of people that represent the Bronx heavy, and I love it. On top of that, I never been to New York ever.
Oh wow, for real?
Ever. But the Bronx to me is like a place where I would love to visit first, and if not, hey, I would love to live in the Bronx. People might call me crazy and say, "Yo, do you really know what goes on in the Bronx?" But I love that. Like that's that window of New York that I've first got a real good taste of out of all artists, the Terror Squad, Big Pun, Remy Ma, and so forth. They brought that life to me, and I'm from the Bay. I'm on the West Coast, and that lifestyle, that era, and also what goes on in the Bronx till this day. There's so much culture. There's so much history that goes on, and I'm just enthused by it and intrigued by it. But that's why I'm mainly captured by this topic. Moving a little along, though, me being Latino, I'm Nicaraguan, and this also hit home because I'm in tune with when things happen of my culture, and I see what's happening. I see how people move in the same way that I do. I'm there. I'm one with it. And then last but not least, how this whole situation was brought to me and captured. The poor kid's life was taken, and everything was captured on video from people's cell phones, and also surveillance. Before we get into the topic, and that's what is going to lead into the main topic of this discussion on how this news was brought to me and how I kind of came across it on social media. It went viral. Unfortunately, someone's life was taken and it went viral. Something to think about, right? That's the whole topic today, the discussion. And before we get into this topic, anything that you want to go ahead and talk about before we get into discussion, how this story kind of, captured you, how you got your eyes on it.
Yeah, for me, I heard the news relatively quickly because a lot of the Stay Woke following is in New York and on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people that I know on the East Coast were bringing that information to me, sending me, posts and different things about it. And so that's kind of how it got on my radar. But outside of it, just the story itself captured me. For me, I didn't care who the kid was or what his race or what his background was. All I cared about was that it was a kid being brutalized and murdered in the manner that he did. It just took me back to like things you read about in movies, like we're living in gladiator times where you just brutalize somebody in the street like that. That's what really took me by surprise, and I couldn't look away from the story, and I had to learn more because again, that's the thing that stuck out to me is the brutality of it.
Definitely, 100%. I'm with you. Not only that, growing up, coming out of high school and getting out of high school, I've had some close, very, very close friends, best friends of mine, taken away by street violence, senseless street violence at a young age, early age. And it really sucks. I have no other word to describe it, to have somebody close to you taken away by somebody else. And we're talking about murder here. I can't fathom what goes on in someone's mind to get to that point where they have to actually kill somebody. But that's another reason why I'm in tune with this story. Let's go ahead and get into the topic of discussion, which is mainly, like I was talking about earlier when we were prepping for this, we're in a WorldStar environment. And what I mean by that is that, and I mean that by the wrong way that WorldStar is being used nowadays. If you don't know the history of actual WorldStarHipHop.com, it was actually to post videos and content of up and coming artists that are trying to get put on and just having a different lane, a different avenue. That was a platform. But unfortunately, in the days that we live, tools that have so much power get misused. Go ahead and back me up on that if you believe that.
I mean, that's been a large conversation, especially in the social realm and the business realm. Business, similar to like you said about hip hop, is the whole purpose of business was to see a problem in society, see a problem in the world, and solve it. And then, as a result of that, yes, you'll make money because you're solving a problem that's needed. We've gone to the point where we're so focused on the money and we're doing whatever it takes to garner money, just like with social media apps and the applications on our phones. The initial idea was to help us and improve our daily lives and our daily functions and to make us have more free time to do and be more productive. But now it's to the point where they're trying to get us addicted to staying on our phones because the longer we stay on our phones, the more money they can make, the more revenue they can capture. So it's not
attention.
And it's the same thing with WorldStar Hip Hop. Like you said, it was for the purpose of helping other hip hop heads find underground artists that might be similar to their likings or might put them on a different style or a different genre or a different subsect of hip hop that they might not have been able to have access prior. And then as a result of kind of clickbait culture where if you put something that's salacious, something that's violent, you'll get a lot more clicks than if you put something positive. So therefore, they started going with that model, and that's where we are today. Is
i.e. people getting jumped, i.e., people having fights in the streets, i.e., people actually in this situation dying
And
being
Childish Gambino brought that up on because of the internet with the song World Star. That's kind of it was his take of it. Of the whole basis of the album was like, what is the effect on society because of the internet? That was the point of it, and World Star was a key component to that particular song.
Unfortunately,
so,
right?
Yeah.
Which brings us now to this whole topic here. Let me just go into some few details here. Yes, I saw the whole situation, every single video that is connected to this young boy's life. I wish I can erase, the memory, but I can't, unfortunately, because the videos are out there. And the sad thing is that the videos are still up there on the internet, and I guess there's just no way of controlling that and getting rid of those videos.
Can I interject something real quick?
Yeah.
I haven't watched any of the videos.
Okay.
I purposely have not watched it because I didn't want to feel like you're feeling now. I didn't feel like there's anything I can gain from it. Just a description of what happened alone was enough for me. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Definitely not my cup of tea when it comes to entertainment, unfortunately. And when it comes to what I see on the internet, when it comes to violence, when it comes to fights, and when it comes to people, passing away, dying, definitely, I skip through, pass, block, anything I can do because I'm all about living my life positive. But just to give you some details here when it comes to this boy's life, I'm just going to go ahead and just go from A to Z of what happened. Not in full details because no one needs to really know, but these are going to lead to the key points that we're going to be talking about today on this in this discussion. Poor child. Again, this is all being recorded from somebody in the neighborhood from a phone, and also other video is captured within the surveillance of the bodega where the kid was actually beat up and dragged out and then murdered.
To corroborate the story that you're seeing from these different vantage points. So it shows that that's how we got as complete of a story that we're getting based off these different vantage points from several different videos.
So let's start from the beginning. Young child is chased for blocks from where he lives to where he tried to find some haven in this bodega. In the surveillance video of this bodega, it shows that the kid rushes through the door, asks for some help to be sheltered, climbs over the counter of the bodega. Bodega owner is there. Supposedly he said he was counting money because it was already the end of the night, and he had no idea what was going on because he was in just a big rush and out of fear. Poor kid jumps over the counter, tries his best to hide, but there was people already chasing him right behind him. And the moment that he actually got behind the counter, the people that were looking for him, the murderers, rushed through the door, find him, and then drag him out to the street. So that's the first part. Second part, now that he's actually dragged out by about 5 to 6 people, 5 to 6 more people come with their weapons, including machetes and also knives, and just brutally hack away at this kid and murder him.
Giving you about 12 suspects total when it's all said and done that are
and there were still more people out in the streets, and there were still more people in cars that were part of this so-called caravan that were looking for this poor kid. Again, he's only 15 years old, had nothing to do with gangs, but I guess some other people from the other side had their motives, whatever it may be. That's not my point. That's not my position. But there was a reason why they wanted to go after him.
I mean, I have more information regarding that.
Okay.
Based on the information that I've got is there was a video released of another boy that looks very similar to Junior that was having sex with a major drug lord or drug dealer or gang member's sister. Mm-hmm. And that's like the impetus or the tipping point for this whole incident. And so it was mistaken identity on top of this whole, no words for it, incident.
And thank you for bringing that up. And that actually found out to be nothing connected to this murder. But I appreciate you bringing that up because a lot of people that I was talking to brought that up, which is also going to be part of this discussion. And that ended up being fake news. Unfortunately. And also there was a report from the Bronx team, deputies and whatnot that are actually investigating. The lead investigators made a response to that, and it had nothing to do with that. Okay. Poor kids, the other people's lives. But
good thing that you cleared that up, though. Yeah.
But unfortunately, when it comes to this this story, it has blown up more on social media than actual in real news. So what you see as far as a meme, what you see as far as a little small video clip or a blog, it ends up being true to people, right? But actually, it was not part of this case. But we'll get into that. I definitely want to talk about that. To continue with this whole still saga going on, poor kid now has been dragged out and also stabbed multiple times. The gang members flee. They leave the scene, and from what I see from this camera vantage point is that kid is now going back into the bodega that he originally went in, asking for more help, and clearly it shows on the camera where he's actually bleeding severely inside the bodega and gets no extra help, no extra attention. I tried my best to play devil's advocate and say, hey, it's not at the fault of the bodega owner and the few people that are actually there witnessing the poor kid bleeding out and not helping him, but or actually trying to help him. But video doesn't lie. Fortunately, video doesn't lie. The kid obviously looked like he was told to leave, and he put his head down, and this is really key detail. The kid was turned away from the
bodega.
The bodega. He leaves the bodega with his head down and actually has the decency to actually close the door behind him. Key details right there, because you can tell that he was disappointed and had nowhere else to go. Poor kid. He closes the door behind him out of respect.
Still had the respect and like you said, the decency and courtesy to close it, even after being refused.
And then the bodega owner locks the door right behind him, and he is now fleeing for his life or trying to find somebody. Luckily for people in that area, there's a hospital and emergency just a few blocks away from where the kid was. So he runs from the bodega a few blocks to the gate, the front gate of the emergency, and that's where he stops, sits down, and loses his life. But before he sits down and takes his last breaths, more people are recording the whole situation, and also he himself and other people that were around in that scene, seeing what was going on, passed and walked right in front of police officers with their hands behind their backs, not doing anything, not rushing to the scene, and just kind of watching this whole situation. Poor kid is bleeding, and it's a mess. And I'll just leave it at that. There's so many points from what I just described from A to Z where this kid could have been helped, could have been saved. Unfortunately, he was recorded by his neighbors, peers from his neighborhood, and nobody was quick to call the police. I get it. I know how it is when you're.
I don't get it.
Okay. And I'm trying my best to.
No, I don't get it.
Play both sides, but
I'm not gonna give that pass. I don't get it. I won't get it. I'll never get it.
I'm with you.
And that's just me.
I'm with you.
I'm not passing judgment on anybody. I'm just saying, for me, I don't get it. I never will get it. It doesn't make sense. But I'm not surprised by it.
I'll leave it at that. Yeah, you're right. Let me play the other side just a little bit, just to, because I can hear voices in my head saying, well, you don't live in my neighborhood and police don't do nothing. Also, gangs run my block, and if I show my face or if I snitch, quote unquote snitch, I can also lose my life too. Or if I intervene into something, I can lose my life too. Okay, that's the point where
my combat to that would be, okay, you don't do that. Mm-hmm. Then when it happens to your friend, your family member, your brother, your sister, your daughter, your son, don't come complaining.
Yep.
Don't complain. Don't say nothing. I don't even want to hear you crying. Because you're not going to be able to prevent anything if you never do anything. Nothing changes by doing nothing. And you have to have the courage to stand by what you believe in, and if you believe that is wrong, then stop it. And there is sacrifices with everything. There's sacrifices in life. There's sacrifices for you not doing nothing. That's we have to get it's bigger than us. And you have to understand that. And so for me, that's the frustrating thing, but it's not surprising to me because we see it all the time. And this is not new. We've seen it, the situation with Walter Scott being shot in the back by a cop, people recording that. The list goes on and on and on and on. And people are continually watching it, seeing it happen and not doing anything. And yes, I do understand. Yes, it does happen a lot. It does happen often. But again, if we don't continue, if we continue to do the same thing, expect the same results. We're not doing anything. We haven't been doing anything, so things aren't changing. Why not? Like, it's that idea of the idea of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results.
And I'm not picking this this story because it's popular on the internet right now. No, not at all. This is another example, which I hope ends up being a huge example across the board. No matter what color your skin is, whatever you're about, your sex, race, it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say with this podcast and this discussion is that it needs to be a discussion with us, our family members, our kids. Now that we're at the age, like myself, we're at an age where we're surrounded by kids as well. We need to teach from the beginning, from the house, that changes have to be made, where instead of recording somebody or something being done, with that same phone that you're using, please call the police.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Please
saying.
call for help.
You don't
Please
even
call
have
for-
to necessarily step in and put your own life at risk. They can see you recording the video just like they can see you calling the cops. So if you can record the video in a safe and secure place, you can call the cops in that same safe and secure place, and your life is no longer in jeopardy. You can stop the incident, and then, yeah, you should continue to record so you have some proof of evidence. But first thing is first, getting response and help to the situation. So that's why I say there is no I understand, no, because there are ways to do it without having to put yourself at risk. Now, yeah, there's going to be spectrums of it. Some people, will have the courage to jump in and stop it because they have that kind of, and usually in those situations, there's been studies that have shown that in large groups like that, all it takes is one individual to do something that will cause a chain reaction for the rest of the people to do it. You can have a room full of 20 people, somebody falls down of a heart attack, and if not one person, all it takes is one person to lean down and check that person, and then you start getting a group effect. So that's what it
Powerful.
takes. It's just one person to be courageous enough to make that stand.
It's the change of mentality that I'm hoping for from examples like this. Like I said, I can't change the world. I'm just one person, but hopefully we get people to understand, listen to this discussion, and actually have a light bulb switch out of the mentality that they're currently in, especially if you are very used to recording your daily life. Let's just say you're always recording your daily life and having that feeling that you have to. You don't need to. You're not. It's not life or death to get attention or to get that like, to get that share, that repost. And just switch and kind of step back from this whole internet lifestyle and actually have your own control of your own brain.
I don't see that happening, to be honest with you. That's my personal opinion, because there has to be some reward for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reward for doing that. There is no reward if there's actually disadvantages for not doing that. If you have a company and you don't do that, you're not going to get enough publicity, advertising, marketing, all that with that. If you're a person that's trying to just get notoriety for yourself or to improve your fame, which you think is going to improve your financial gains and all that, there's that. And if you're just doing it because it's fun and that's what society has put into you, what is the thing that's going to revert it back or to stop those actions? And
what I'm trying to figure out is what is the point and what is the benefit of recording and posting somebody losing their life or getting jumped.
The benefit is they know that you're going to get views. You know you're going to get likes. You know you're going to get people's attention, and so therefore,
sadly,
it's a repetitive cycle. If I post this, which is something negative, I get a lot of views, a lot of likes. That tells me I should post more stuff of that, and therefore you have just a loop of negative attention, negative attention, negative attention, negative attention, and until that cycle is broken, which I don't see it being broken because people are becoming famous. People are getting financial gains for doing that. Why would you not? Unless it's just something within you or some other pressure that's going to deviate you from doing that. And like, just real quick to bring up a personal story that's kind of related to this is the reason why I wasn't shocked by the response of this is there was an incident that happened to me and my friend, in Atlanta. We were driving in our car down a main street in Atlanta on Peachtree Road. and there was a homeless man beating the shit out of this woman. Like literally, like blood was dripping down her face. So much blood was dripping down her face. I couldn't tell that it was just red on half of her face. Like you could not tell like that side of her face was even acknowledgeable, like that she was human at that point. Like literally, that's how bad it was. Cars just driving by. We at a stoplight, and it's like literally,
It was busy.
Yeah, it's busy. I'm looking to the, like, we stop at the stoplight. I look to the side, and that's where it is. Like literally. So, and there's other cars stopped at the light. I see people in the back of us videotaping it. Nobody's doing nothing. Me and my friend, the only ones that got out the car. Like, we don't know what we gonna do. We figured the dude's crazy, and we just get out the car and start yelling, "Yo, yo, yo!" He runs off.
Try to break it up.
Yeah, he runs off,
you did.
and so he runs off, and we just stay there, call the cops. Finally, they got the guy. But I'm saying, like, that was 4 years ago. Society, if anything, has got worse with how much we post and do stuff. So if no action was taken then, it's not, like I said, it wasn't surprising that no action would be taken now.
It's my hope. Is it your hope that things can get better at the end of the day?
I mean, my hope is things can get, but that hope only goes so much as if the amount of work that we're willing to put into it. True. And at this point, I don't see enough people willing to put in the work and make sacrifices, because that's what, with any great changes, it requires sacrifice. And I don't feel at this point in society there's enough people that want to make those sacrifices. And until I start seeing that change,
true, then
the level of hope that I have will increase.
So many, going back to the story of Junior Lisandro Guzman Feliz, so many points from A to Z that I just mentioned earlier, where the kid, I have belief that he could have been saved.
It's a nurse came out and said it's fact that he could have been saved.
Man, it hurts.
The same thing with
it hurts to hear that straight from you, because you're right in front of me, and it's just like, man,
like it's not. They took the time period of how much blood he lost in between that time period, from the time that it happened to the time that he got to the emergency front area of the emergency gate. That time in between would have been enough to save his life. Now, what quality of life? That's a whole nother discussion. But at least he would have been saved.
Yeah, he wouldn't have bled to death.
Exactly. And that's the key in it. The same thing with a similar, which we were talking about offline, is with Triple X. The same situation. That was one of the first things that I read, is a nurse coming out and saying the same thing. Like, he could have. We don't know. I'm not quite sure if it was the same situation where it definitely would have been fact that he could have been saved, but there's a possibility.
Same thing happened with Triple X Tentacion. His last breaths were videotaped by people that were just standing around, people walking around, checking his pulse, but at the same time, videotaping him with their cell phones. Something could have been happening. Some type of help could have been done. And those are the things that just irk me, that bug me about what's going on out there nowadays, where it's just that I can't fathom it. Like I don't know. I can't understand how there isn't no other choice than to help somebody out. It's tough.
I mean,
it's complex.
I mean, like I said, I can see it because people do it all the time. Okay. People do it every day. Just watch the show. What Would You Do? People do it all the time, every day. It happens, and it's sad, but it's, to be real, to be 100. If you don't think, you're living in a bubble, if you think that people don't have that in them, and they don't exhibit it more every day.
And to go back to Junior's story, that block, that street was busy. People were walking around. People were yelling from their windows. There was cars honking. There was cars passing by still. And the kid actually knew that. In the video, you can tell that the kid knew that in his surrounding there was people around, and he's doing sign language. He's doing motions with his hands to somebody, please call 911, and he shows in his hand motions 911, that he's trying to look at somebody in a window that's yelling from their window, and he ends up running from where he got jumped at to the hospital, because he obviously knew that where the hospital was, and later lost his life at the front gate, not getting any more help. Unfortunately,
I just want to touch on that for a second, man. Like, just for everybody out there who's listening, put yourself in his shoes. Like, just that moment, you're dying, or you think you're dying,
because you don't know.
because you don't know.
You don't know what the hell
You don't
that
know. You
feels
just know
like.
that you're in a lot of pain. You know that you're hurting, and all you do is see people around you in positions to help you. People in positions to help you, and
That's deep.
not only that is like all the things that I'm getting or that I'm hearing about this young kid is that he was a good kid. He wanted to be a police officer. Like, he wanted to do the right things. That's his, like we said, he had the respect of even closing the door in that same situation. Like, having the mindfulness of, you did refuse me service, but at the same time, I was raised right. I need to do the right thing, close this door, be respectful. And knowing that there's people around you that can save you, or that can at least, you don't even know at that point if you can be saved, but at least help. And you don't get that help.
I pay attention to details, and the video says it all. How much he wanted to be saved. So many times.
As you broke down the timeline, you go into the bodega asking for help, and I'm not even talking about before you get stabbed and after. Like, you go in there, you get refused help. He's in a position to help you. That's one person. You're in the street, you're seeing several people passing you that are in positions to help. They don't. You get to the gate of the hospital or the emergency room, and still more people are in position to help you, and they don't. Like,
I think
at that point, like, what? I wouldn't blame him. You in a position like you, and to be real, that's how a lot of people of color, people of minorities, that's how they feel all the time. Not that physical necessary pain, but the emotional and the psychological pain of what goes on in this country. That same blocking of ignoring him and acting as if he's not even real human there. That's the feeling that minorities go through all the time. Being in a position where you know people are in position to help you, and they just look over and pass you by because they don't care. So, like, to me, that's why this story took on a lot of different feelings and a lot of different emotions, because, like, it encompassed really where society is to me at this point.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of layers to this story, which is why I'm interested in it. The layers of beginning to end, like I said, from A to Z, all the steps where this little kid was struggling for his life, and on top of that, layers on top of that of so many disappointments of where he could have been saved. He could have been saved more than once. That's the part that hurts me, is that more than one time somebody could have been saved and it didn't happen.
It took one. All it had to do was one yes, yeah. one person to say yes. I'm going to help you.
One blanket, one taking the shirt off your own back and
say 911 here,
and getting on your cell phone. Unfortunately, the same cell phones that were recording this whole brutal murder. Another thing is that I want to get into. I brought it up earlier. Is that when it comes to these types of situations, earlier I said that right now I feel like it's the best time to talk about this, even though it happened more than a month. Now it's, oh my gosh, it's almost, a month now, on the 20th, right? Mm-hmm. I feel that it's the best time to talk about it right now, because now all the smoke has cleared. We now have separated what is fact and fiction. Yeah. People are in jail right now because of what happened. Thanks to tips, thanks to people, reaching out and really caring about this story. People are in jail, right? Roughly about 12 people now are in jail. What I want to say about this is that
they're indicted on grand jury charges.
Mm-hmm. First degree murder.
First degree murder, all the way down to criminal possession for weapon.
What I want to talk about is that since this story reached, I found out about it because of social media. It actually blew up bigger than actually what it was on social media versus real news. So that also brings up a topic of where things are moving so super fast on the internet, and it can go million different directions when it comes to perspectives and what's true, what's fake, what's false news, what's real news versus what's actually really happening in real life. Real life families, this whole neighborhood is devastated. A lot of things are shattered. A lot of things are broken. While the internet is either done with it or moving on with it, there's still real life stuff that's being dealt with right now the discussion that I'm talking about right now.
Reverberating effects of it, yeah.
Yeah. And then you brought up a story where they originally thought that this was a case of mistaken identity, which actually ended up not being the truth. Fortunately,
And, yeah.
because that also means that someone else's life is endangered and whatnot. But now, because of the internet, of how powerful the internet is, these people are nowhere to be found, or their families have found out about this whole brand new other story that had nothing to do with this story. And that's another, domino effect of just bad stuff, right? Negativity that was just unnecessary. Who knows if it was try to be a cover up? Who knows if it was people that knew each other in this whole situation just trying to be funny about it, which is sad to think, to create fake news and ruin more lives just for the hell of getting likes. Again, this is what it's all about, right? Because we're watching it on the internet. It's about likes, attention, shares, double clicks, whatever you want,
The positive of social media is, like you said, the fact that this story picked up steam on social media more than it did in national media. Now, the downside of that is that social media doesn't do the due diligence and fact check.
No.
And check sources, primary sources, where mainstream media has to. That's why it does take them longer to break reports, break stories, break news, because they need to determine if the facts that they're breaking are true.
Whoa, stop.
Yeah, hold on.
let's
This is
focus
a
on
great
it.
story. Hold on. Now, let me double check these facts. Let me find out, is this real? Where did you get that information from? Is that information fact checkable here? I need a primary source, a secondary source, and a tertiary source to validate that all this information is real, and all those three sources can be in knowledge with each other. There's a whole, journalistic process that goes through that doesn't go through social media. So, with everything, there's a gift and a curse to it. But
The viewers don't care.
providing that balance is what's needed, and the viewers don't care is, I think, one aspect of it, but two is the fact that we're bombarded with so much information on a daily basis. We don't necessarily have time to go through and fact check all this information, because you have your own daily life, you have your own family problems, you have your own whatever you're dealing with.
And if it seems true,
If it seems close enough,
if it's close enough, all right, we're gonna go with
you're
true.
they tend to go with it, and that's where, as well as I think a part of that has to go with the destruction and the trying to take down of our media structure by certain people in government, by saying that it's fake news. When you create that kind of dynamic where the actual trusted source where we're getting information from is being discredited, and other sources that we know shouldn't be credited are getting that validation, it's hard for individuals to determine, but it goes back to doing that due diligence. Anything worth its time takes time and hard work. So
I hate to see that, outlets like TMZ, the Shade Room, World Star. We were talking about World Star earlier. I can't forget about it. I hate to see that these are taken over as main media outlets where people believe that everything that is said is true.
that they're valid,
and that it's
they're
law.
valid sources of
Like
media.
it's a fake law on social media. And again, all I'm trying to say is that I'm not like that. I was raised right. I guess these are all things I actually, I think to myself, and like, hey, I'm not making these types of moves. So hopefully, if it's working for me, where I'm fact checking, I know the difference between what's good and bad. I know what the difference is between fake and real. All these different things are part of my characteristics. Hopefully, somebody out there will do the same thing and then teach down the line. Friends, family, have a discussion, while you're chilling at the house, having a barbecue. And these are the discussions, hopefully, to be made, to be had, to make the world around us a safer, better place.
And I'm an optimistic person, but what I will say is, think about this case, this reality. And what did we just have last week? Nia Wilson getting stabbed, getting off the BART.
Yeah, locally.
So,
and that's another story that has blown up on the internet and has gone different ways too.
exactly.
Fact versus real.
Exactly. Fact
there's-
versus fiction.
There's thoughts of the killer being a white supremacist which has not been,
Validated or
validated, that there was a motive, blah blah blah. People are taking to social media that there was a motive, but there actually wasn't. And I mean, there's a bunch of different things. What I'm trying to say is that there is a real story to that situation, and then there's a fake story to that situation. Unfortunately, we're talking about people's lives being lost, and at the end of the day, I think we need to leave it there. It's not for discussion, right? It's like, it's not. What am I trying to say? It's like there's a lot of finger pointing.
Yeah, when it all boils down to it, like, you basically what you're trying to say is, at the end of the day, people's lives have lost.
And to be more human about this situation, these types of situations, because it happens every day, to be more human about it and to not be so robotic and attention driven, internet driven, whatever it's labeled to be these days. More heart needs to be the brains of these.
I think
situations.
it's not even to me. It's not just that, just more heart. It's just being. It boils down to it too. It's like that's why I bring it back to, like, really race is about, like, man, like, when you don't see people as human, you don't have that empathy. You don't. And then that shit carries over. And it continues to carry over and carry over and carry over and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I think that's kind of like why you can have situations like that, where people can just pass by and see somebody hurting that regard and knowing you're in a position to help. And it doesn't cost you anything to make a phone call. It doesn't cost you anything at all. Like, if you're saying, oh, I'm too busy with my daily life, you can continue walking in the direction you were walking as you're making that call. And
that's it.
It's about thinking. It's about thinking more than yourself. That's really what it comes down to, is thinking beyond yourself.
Thank you.
To me, that's what it boils down to, is if we think more about others and less about ourselves, we'll all be better off.
And I'd like to end it on this note. Last part of the notes that I have is that where can we find in our lives, or what can we do to make situations like this better, or not even happen at all?
I mean, just basically, like, it's just every day, every single day, just try to be better. That's it. It's very simple. Every day, when you see somebody in a position, if you feel like you can help them, help them. Simple. If you can't, you can't. It's nobody's saying to sacrifice your own. You can't give others what you still need for yourself. It's a line I say all the time, and I got it from Mick Jenkins. So, but if you have more than you need for yourself, and you're in a position and you see somebody in need, then go ahead. That's, to me, is that simple. If that's that simple. If you see somebody in a position where you can help them, you should. I don't know how to make it any more simple than that for me. What about you? What would your suggestion or your advice be?
Same. To live life on a positive on the positive side versus negative. Try your best to filter out, and always just be positive and be the best version of you every single day. But in more and more details, I would say, and I'm an advocate of this, and I say it every time, I'm not a fan of social media. I'm not a fan of the internet. But where the internet can be provided as a tool to better your life, that's what you use it for. Don't use it for the wrong way. Don't use it in the wrong intent. On top of that, when it comes to social media, again, use it in positive light.
It's a tool, not all the tools.
Yeah,
that's what I think people forget. They use it for everything, and it's just one tool that we have in the vast majority of tools that we have in our social, in the human experience.
And then it goes down to the small scale of your phone. Use your phone to call 911. I can't be more complex about it. I just use your phone to help. Call 911 instead of recording somebody who's right in front of you, or in the scope of the camera, and do something that will actually change.
You know what I just thought about when you said that is, we've had a lot of popping up in social media, Barbecue Becky calling the police on barbecues, calling the police on little girls, but nobody called the police on something that was actually deserving of the police. Like, they're quick to call in on that, but not on something that really, really needed the police to be there.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's put them to use.
In the right perspective, though, like
Yeah.
you said, put it in the right perspective. Call it on the, yeah, just use it in the right manner. In a case where somebody really needed the police, it wasn't called, and in the other cases, it was. So, I think that was interesting to put it in perspective.
Thank you, D. Ray. Again, this is another episode 4 of Live in the Garage podcast in conjunction with the sonicbreakdown.com. Thank you for being part of the discussion. It means a lot because this is a story that I've been holding on to for the longest, ever since it happened. But at the same time, I didn't want to jump the gun because I didn't want to get caught up in what was going on the internet versus what was going on in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Let the dust settle.
it all came together very well. So thank you again for being part of this podcast. This is a special podcast because I don't normally do this. I'm normally, doing a mix and I interview a DJ friend of mine, but it's important to get some topics off my chest because I'm more than just a DJ. Hopefully,
He's a complex creature, y'all. Complex creature.
yeah. Will loves the kids, and definitely just want to, just again, I say this every single day when people talk to me or meet me for the first time. I live my life very, very, very positive, and I aim, and even if I have to struggle, that's the life I live every single day, is that I look to be positive every single day and to block out negativity.
Life's too short to be negative, man.
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
and so, I'm just trying to live that stress life free. I'm trying to live that, like the man Lil Duval said,
Living my best life.
I'm living my best life.
I want to say thank you for having me on Live in the Garage. Definitely appreciate it. It's good to have these conversations, and they're needed. It's good for us, just ourselves to get it out, as well as it's beneficial for other people to hear different takes on it and different perspectives.
My man, thank you. Appreciate it. Again, this whole conversation will be, first of all, the first half, which was the live playlist and mix, will be up on Apple Music as a playlist and also as a live mix that I did on my Mixcloud and my website. So follow me, DJ William West, on all social media platforms and Mixcloud as well, where I have all of my podcasts posted. And then, of course, this conversation that I'm talking discussion that we're having right now will also be part of that whole collection of websites and platforms. So thank you again, and shout out to everybody who was tuned in on the IG Live. I really, really do appreciate you and all the support. And we're going to come back again with another discussion and live mix coming soon. All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Stay blessed.